Vegetable gardening doesn't need to pause when summer ends. A well-planned, year-round garden can carry you through every season with fresh produce. The goal isn't perfection or squeezing every possible vegetable out of the soil, but building a steady cycle of growth that avoids the dreaded hungry gap. That gap comes in early spring when winter crops are gone and new ones aren't mature yet. With the right timing and some protective structures, you can bridge that gap and harvest food in every season. Why extending the season matters. Season extension isn't just about eating lettuce in December. It's about making the most of what you grow, keeping soil active, and smoothing out the highs and lows of garden production. Without it, the garden works in bursts, a rush of summer produce, followed by long months of scarcity. With it, you get smaller but steady harvests over more months. Less waste and more resilience when weather throws surprises. It's also about self-reliance, knowing you can walk outside and pick dinner when grocery store shelves look thin. Preparing the soil for continuous production. Year-round gardening asks more from your soil. Plants don't get the long rest period of a traditional summer-only garden. So soil health has to be maintained actively. That means building organic matter, protecting it from erosion, and feeding it steadily. Compost is the backbone. Every time you clear a bed, add a fresh layer. Don't till it in. Just let worms and microbes pull it down. A 2-inch layer after every harvest keeps nutrient cycling and soil structure intact. Cover crops can also help. In a bed you won't use for a couple of months, sow quick legumes or winter rye. Even if they don't mature, their roots hold the soil and their tops can be cut and used as mulch. Mulch is the other key. Bare soil loses moisture, bakes in summer, and freezes in winter. A thick mulch of straw, shredded leaves, or old hay protects soil life and moderates temperature swings. In winter, it keeps roots from heaving. In summer, it keeps soil from crusting and drying out. The goal is to never see bare dirt if you can help it. Understanding your climate and microclimates. What you can grow and when depends on your zone and your site's quirks. Year-round gardening in a mild coastal zone looks very different from doing it in a snowy inland valley. The first step is knowing your average first frost date in fall and last frost in spring. That sets the outer edges of your unprotected season. Microclimates can extend that window. A south-facing wall, a slope that catches sun, or even the heat radiating from a driveway can add precious degrees. Cold air sinks, so low spots are frost pockets. Raised beds often warm earlier in spring, but dry out faster in summer. Learning where frost hits first or where snow melts quickest on your property helps you decide where to place early and late plantings. Protection structures create their own microclimates. A simple plastic low tunnel can bump temperatures up enough to turn a borderline Zone 5 garden into something that behaves more like Zone 6 inside. Cold frames against a south wall can act like a mini greenhouse, keeping greens alive through freezes that would kill them in open beds. Catching up with cold hardy crops in fall. Late summer is when a year-round garden really begins. When most people are winding down, you're planting again. Cool season crops like kale, spinach, Swiss chard, beets, carrots, cabbage, and broccoli thrive in the shorter, cooler days of late summer and early fall. They don't need blazing heat. In fact, too much of it can make them bitter or bolt. The trick is timing. You want the plants established and with good root systems before the first hard frost. That often means planting while it's still hot outside. It feels counterintuitive, sowing spinach in August heat. But by the time it sprouts and gets going, the cooler nights are right on time. Starting too late means they stay small and stall out when the cold hits. For brassicas like broccoli or cauliflower, many gardeners use transplants instead of direct seeding for fall. A few extra weeks of growth in a tray can make the difference between a crop that finishes and one that stays stunted all winter. Using protection. Cloches, low tunnels, cold frames. When the weather starts turning, simple covers can mean the difference between a harvest and a loss. Cloches, anything from cut plastic bottles over single plants to larger clear covers, trap heat around seedlings and pre-warm the soil before planting. Low tunnels are a workhorse of the year-round garden. They're just plastic sheeting stretched over hoops, anchored against wind. They can be a couple of feet high, covering a bed or a row. Inside, the air warms during the day and releases slowly at night. keeping the temperature just high enough for greens and roots to keep growing. Cold frames are the next step. A box with a clear lid angled to catch winter sun can keep greens harvestable through snow and ice. The best ones are simple: wood sides, a salvaged window or polycarbonate lid, and enough height to fit a good layer of mulch inside. Venting them on sunny days is critical. Even in winter, the temperature inside can soar and cook plants if left closed. Managing the hungry gap. The hungry gap, usually late winter into early spring, is when most gardens are at their lowest. Winter greens are bolting or gone, stored roots are dwindling, and new plantings aren't ready. Avoiding it takes planning months ahead. Overwintering leeks, kale, and hardy spinach planted in fall can hold through winter and start growing again with lengthening days. Sowing early peas, broad beans, and quick greens under covers in late winter gets you harvests just as overwintered crops fade. Some gardeners bridge the gap with stored crops: winter squash, carrots, beets, or cabbages kept in a cool cellar. Others rely on perennial vegetables like asparagus or sorrel that wake early. Combining storage with live plants is what keeps the kitchen stocked. Early spring. Give plants a head start. As soon as the worst of winter passes, you can get a jump by using covers to warm soil. A couple of weeks under a low tunnel can take frozen ground to workable. Quick crops like lettuce, radishes, spinach, and peas can handle light frosts and thrive in the cool. Starting them early lets you harvest before summer heat stresses them. Indoor seed starting also plays a role. Onions, brassicas, and some greens can be sown under lights in late winter and planted out into cold frames or tunnels. That extra month under protection outside gets them rooted and growing before unprotected beds are ready. Staggering plantings over the season. One of the easiest ways to keep a garden producing is staggering plantings. Instead of putting in one big row of lettuce, plant a short row every 2 weeks. That way, you don't get one glut followed by nothing. The same goes for radishes, carrots, and other quick growers. Even longer season crops benefit. Planting early, mid, and late varieties of potatoes spreads harvest. For crops like beans or corn, sowing in waves a week or two apart stretches picking time. It's simple succession planting, but in a year-round garden, it's essential. When cold frames really help. Cold frames aren't just for winter greens. In spring, they're a perfect nursery. You can harden off seedlings in them, start direct sown crops a couple of weeks early, and protect transplants from late frosts. In summer, with the lid propped open, they can even act as shade for starting fall crops that don't like heat. In winter, they shine. A layer of straw inside under the greens adds insulation. The soil rarely freezes, so plants stay alive even if they grow slowly. As soon as days lengthen in late winter, growth picks up again, and you're harvesting when everyone else is still waiting for thaw. Details on row covers and low tunnels. Row covers are lightweight fabric that sits over plants or hoops. They let rain and light through, but block wind and pests. They add just enough warmth to prevent light frost damage. For insect control, they're unbeatable, keeping cabbage worms off brassicas or flea beetles off greens without sprays. Low tunnels are similar but with plastic sheeting. They hold more heat and shed rain and snow. The downside is they need venting to avoid overheating or moisture buildup. Combining both, fabric under plastic, can create layers of protection that carry even tender greens through deep cold. What to mulch and why it matters. Mulch is more than weed control in a year-round garden. It's insulation and moisture management rolled into one. In fall, a deep mulch over root crops can let you harvest carrots and beets straight from the ground in midwinter. In summer, it keeps soil cool and moist for shallow-rooted greens. Organic mulches break down and feed the soil. Every layer of straw or leaves is future humus. Aim to keep beds covered all year. Even paths benefit. A thick layer of mulch keeps mud down and feeds soil life underfoot. Choosing hardy varieties. Not all kale is equal. Some varieties shrug off single-digit temperatures. Others turn to mush. The same goes for spinach, lettuce, and even carrots. Seed catalogs often label cold hardy or overwintering varieties. Picking the right genetics can be the difference between a bed of food in February and a bed of compost. Experimentation helps. Try a few types each season. Note which handle your winters best and save that information. Over a few years, you'll build a roster of plants that thrive in your specific conditions. Managing pests and disease year-round. Year-round gardens can create continuous habitat for pests. Breaking that cycle means rotation and vigilance. Move families of crops each season. Don't put brassicas in the same spot twice in a row. Clean up debris where pests overwinter. Use row covers to block insects at critical times. Diseases can also linger in continuous beds. Good airflow, proper spacing, and avoiding overhead watering in cool weather help prevent fungal issues. Healthy soil full of organic matter supports plants that can shrug off minor attacks. Beneficial insects are your allies. Leaving some flowers or allowing a few crops to bolt provides nectar for predators that keep pests in check. Year-round gardens are more a living system than a set of isolated plantings. Crop rotation for continuous harvests. Rotation is more than pest control. It also balances soil nutrients. Leafy greens take a lot of nitrogen. Roots prefer soil that isn't too rich. Legumes add nitrogen. Rotating between these groups keeps soil in balance. In a year-round setup, rotation can be tricky because beds don't get long breaks. Keeping a simple map or journal helps. Even shifting plant families one bed over each season helps break cycles and maintain fertility. Sequence of the year's workflow. The rhythm of a year-round garden is steady. Winters for planting, ordering seeds, and starting early crops indoors. Late winter is for setting up cold frames and sowing hardy greens. Spring is for quick crops and transplants under cover. Summer is for main season harvests and planting fall crops even while you're picking tomatoes. Fall is for building protection and mulching. Winter is for harvesting greens and roots under cover, then starting the cycle again. Combining techniques for maximum effect. None of these methods work in isolation as well as they do together. Staggered planting fills gaps. Hardy varieties survive where others die. Mulch protects soil while tunnels protect plants. Crop rotation keeps everything balanced. The combination is what keeps a garden productive for 12 months without burning out the soil or the gardener. Motivation and purpose. A year-round garden isn't just about efficiency. It's about a relationship with the land that doesn't pause when the calendar flips. It's about eating food you grew in January and remembering what August felt like. It's about planning ahead and being patient enough to see cycles through. The work pays off when you pick fresh spinach in the snow or dig a carrot out of frozen ground and know the garden never really sleeps. Summary. Year-round vegetable gardening is planning, timing, and steady care. Build soil, choose hardy crops, use simple covers, and plant with the seasons in mind. Mulch, rotate, and protect what you grow. It's not complicated, but it's deliberate. Done well, it turns a garden into a living pantry that feeds you in every season and keeps the hungry gap a thing of the past.